Looks like we've got audio. Okay. We're streaming on the thumbnail. Give them a minute to get logged in. How you like that thumbnail? Can you go ahead and tap the sounder?
Give me just a bit and I'll push the button.
Lower left. Oh, Dave, it's always going to make my day when you draw First Blood by Trolling Cameron. Good morning, sunshine. And, Steve, how you doing, brother? Oh, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing?
Yes? I mean, I've been up drinking coffee since about 4, so... And playing Cyberpunk 2077? It's excellent. Anyway. So. And you're wearing a red shirt.
Well, I'm not signing up to play an extra on Star Trek, so I think I'm okay.
One doesn't sign up to play an extra on Star Trek.
You literally...
One gets called. Hey, Danny's with us already, and Jeff Goldblum. Good morning. So, I always like to see Jeff in here because you talk about troll extraordinaire. And good morning, Your Majesty. So, here's what we're talking about today. We're talking about where the battle lines are being drawn. Because a thing happened this week. In fact, a couple of things. And you can talk about a convergence. The meme war. So, we've talked about the meme war a lot. And Joe Rogan moved to Getter, which is a Twitter alternative. On the face of it, it seems like, okay, you're talking about a celebrity's social media platform. This is a big deal. This is actually a very big deal. And I'll tell you why.
Well, I could tell you why. I saw some statistics on it, and Joe Rogan has more people listen to his podcast than CNN's entire collective primetime lineup.
Yes. In fact, Rogan has more engagement, higher viewership ratings than the top 9 below him of the top 10 ratings. Nearly. than all of them combined. And that's especially amusing because the top 2 through 8 are like Hannity and
Tucker.
Waters World and Tucker Carlson, et cetera, et cetera. So of the top 10, 2 are not Fox News, and the tippiest top is Joe Rogan, which isn't even an especially fair statistic, because Rogan does a 3-hour podcast for free, and everybody else that's competing with him in that category is doing 1 hour or less.
Oh man, can you picture
with less distribution and behind a paywall?
Can you? Yeah, wait, but can you picture Don Lemon for 3 hours?
In no way at all.
You say less distribution and behind a paywall. I mean, I guess cable is a paywall, but I mean, you can get cable for like $30 a month. Like, if cable's the paywall that's stopping you, like, it's literally a couple of Netflix subscriptions. I mean, unless you get like the plan that's got 500 and something.
Real quick, Jeff, is that you? Say that's you, and I'll follow you immediately.
See, but I don't know anything about Getter, okay? Because I tried to make the switch to Parler, and it was awkward.
Parler shit the bed.
Well, I don't know that it's Parler shit the bed so much as, like, everybody decided Parler was going to shit the bed, and, like, kicked them off the App Store, and then suddenly the app itself wouldn't work for a period of time, and is that really Parler's fault? And because something was taught to me there, okay? It's, oh, you don't like the way YouTube does it, you don't like the way Facebook does it, go start your own social media platform. So they did, and it was called Parler, and then they froze Parler out of everything. And apparently, like...
And this is how it was Parler's fault. Go ahead.
Okay, how was it Parler's fault?
No, go ahead. You finish what you were saying. And then...
Well, no, I mean, but that's pretty much it. Like, I got invested in something else, and then I had the rug yanked out from underneath me. So, I don't want to stand on another rug.
Well... So here's the thing with Parler, and this is how it was Parler's demise was Parler's fault, because Parler started off with the premise that it's wrong for the censorship to be happening, for big tech to be able to just say, you know what, you have the wrong think and you're out of here. And Parler said, okay, we're going to go build our own Twitter/Facebook. And the plans with Parler were eventually to have their own streaming and all that and compete with Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as a consolidated alternative. And they understood, in theory, starting off, that they were going to be going against the big guys. And they made a dramatic, obvious, tactical error. They hosted all of their technology with the enemy, with Amazon groups, where they left themselves from the front end incredibly vulnerable to the same censorious big tech oligarchs being able to simply switch off their equipment.
Did they, though?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you and
I... That's not even in question.
Okay, let's say you and I build an app.
Okay.
If it's not available in the whatever the Android Play Store is, and it's not available on iTunes, how do people get our app?
You're talking about something different now. You're talking about who's hosting the app.
No.
Yes.
No, because they weren't just shut down by Amazon. Apple also interfered with the app side of things.
That's correct.
Apple does that all the time.
But here's the difference. What I'm talking about is their actual physical server hosting. So if Apple decides not to carry your app, that means that your app isn't available in the App Store. If your physical server hosting switches off, it means that the thing that app would have connected to anyway has ceased to exist.
I understand that those are two
there's
different...
there's a significant difference there.
Look, I understand that those are two different things. I really, really do. But when you're trying to have servers that are big enough to host a social media platform, because I know enough to know that I have no idea how much server space you need to host a social media platform. I just know it's a lot. I just know that it's like rooms of towers with like their own separate air conditioning units to make sure the machines don't overheat. Okay, like
right.
that's what I know. So if you're going to start a service like this, how do you host it without?
Well, that is a conundrum, but
so
and Alex, you're not wrong, but here's the thing: without the App Store app, the fact of the matter is you can continue to exist, and your site can still be accessed through the internet. But without the servers hosted, it doesn't matter if Apple carries your app; you don't exist. You literally don't exist. You're talking about being figuratively dead because Apple doesn't carry your app. That's true, and that's a big damn deal, but it's a hell of a lot different than you cease to exist because your entire
Apple's still the enemy.
Was deleted.
Like if you're gonna engage in the social media space, you've got to have an app, and you've got to have a functioning, easy to use app. Love Facebook, hate Facebook, whatever. One of the benefits to being on Facebook is like you tap one button on your iPhone or your Android and you've got Facebook that's customized to fit inside your cell phone screen perfectly. And that's how many, many, many people interact. In fact, the kids these days, dude, a lot of them don't even use computers. Like they have Chromebooks for school in a lot of public schools. They literally use the Chromebook to do their schoolwork and absolutely nothing else. Everything else is done from their iPhone and their iPad. Like, just period. So if you don't have an app, honestly, I get what you're saying. If you have Amazon host your servers and Jeff Bezos gets pissed at you, you can get knocked right off of Amazon servers and then you don't have a product to sell. Okay? But, if I'm a farmer and I grow tomatoes, right? Okay. If I get it, if my fields get salted, I can't grow tomatoes.
Correct.
Okay? But if my business model revolves around going to the local farmers markets in the metro Atlanta area and selling those tomatoes at the local farmers markets, and then I get banned from the farmers markets, I still have the tomatoes, but I don't have a functioning tomato business. So if
no, you lost one outlet, but you're getting way down in the weeds on something that's completely besides the point. And as far as what you were saying about the server space, just for a little perspective, here's the Google Earth image of the Facebook Newton County Data Center near here, and that's just the one for Georgia. Just there's your perspective. That that's a car. These are the servers. So there's a little idea of the kind of infrastructure that's required. So it is difficult to just up and build your own YouTube, build your own Facebook, etc. That said,
Dave Bowen is doing fantastic this morning. And by the way, just since we're talking about this, I just want to. He had a comment earlier about. I'm surprised AOC isn't one of the top 10 in all of social media with all the Republicans that want to date her.
Oh my God, yeah. Listen, sweetheart, for AOC, I understand that you have this bizarre racist and culturalist opinion of of backwards rednecks like us and how we like to have sex with farm animals. But that overbite of yours, that donkey face, just does not blow my skirt up. I promise you, all of our criticism has to do with both your brain cells and how they just don't manage to get away from your ears. Your ridiculous,
just the way
donkey.
I went back, man, and I looked up the original series of tweets where all this came from, where all that social media fodder. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it all started with when she was down in Florida with her boyfriend, right?
Right, without a mask on.
Without a mask. Oh yeah, yeah. Go figure, right?
Right.
And he's dressed kind of like you would expect a soy boy to be dressed. Maybe how you might expect Jack
with a bitch
Murphy.
biscuit and no mask. Tracking.
How you might expect Jack Murphy to dress if he was being honest about himself and how he liked his life.
Wow. Wow. I can see Jack Murphy sporting a bitch biscuit.
So, anyhow, but it all came from some people made comments about how like he was not wearing he was not wearing socks, and they were making jokes about oh my God, as if all this wasn't bad enough, now you can see his ugly man feet on top of everything else. Right? And so she has this bizarre tweet where she explains that people can't outright sexually fetishize her, so somehow they transfer the sexual energy to her boyfriend's feet, and it's just like, no. Good God, on so many levels, no.
All right, now listen, I don't care if they have to break out the Dremel tool. They do for me. It's worthwhile, gentlemen, every now and then to go get that pedicure, because, well, it comes with a foot massage. And I mean to the knee, and that I'm going to do one next Wednesday. Deep hot stone massage, because I've destroyed my back fixing the plumbing. But anyway, so here's why this is important. Not only did Joe Rogan move, now he didn't quit Twitter. I kind of wish he would, but he didn't yet.
Well, this is a backup plan,
right? Joe Rogan leads move to get her after Twitter bans Dr. Robert Malone and Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, banning Marjorie Taylor Greene is a big deal. That's censorship of political speech. The ban on Dr. Robert Malone and the bans by Twitter and YouTube throwing Dr. Malone off, censoring his speech. Dr. Malone is the guy who invented the mRNA platform on which the new vaccines are based.
And totally awesome vaccines are based.
Well, and Malone is vaxxed and boosted. He's had some very positive things to say about the vaccine. But the thing that he's being censored over is he's saying that the way that the fake news lies carry, and the lies that are being told by the mainstream media and Dr. Fauci over and over and over again are a sort of mass psychosis. I don't remember the exact phrase he used. It was trending yesterday. I almost talked about this yesterday. I was hoping it would have the quote in here with the mass psychosis, but he accused the people of being tied up in this mass psychosis. So the censorship of Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's a blatant violation of the Constitution, and I'll get to your OMA free platform bullshit in just a second. That's political censorship. That's a violation of her First Amendment rights. But the censorship of this doctor, who is the granddaddy of the mRNA technology, is tantamount to Twitter and YouTube and anybody else who censors him practicing medicine without a license. It is not different than them giving unlicensed medical advice. Right? Now, that's And that is true of the entire swath of censorship related to any discussion about the pandemic, the vaccines, etc. Now, we have been censored off of YouTube in the past, not even talking about the vaccine, talking about whether or not mandates are lawfully tolerable or constitutional. The strike that we have expiring tomorrow, in fact, was over something of
January
the sort.
6th? What?
Indeed. So, and Bowen points out he basically chastised the government for Nuremberg Code violations, and not basically. That's exactly what he did, and quite correctly, because guess what? I was just following orders. Did not fly as defense at Nuremberg, and for a reason. When Nuremberg happened, right? Nuremberg was the end of the argument of moral relativity. The idea of moral relativity, where some things are acceptable in other cultures and you need to be tolerant of that, was had its face shit on by the Nuremberg trials. That was when the world came together and said, we don't know exactly what really is evil, what the greatest extent to that is, or even what the low bar is. But we know that this thing that occurred cannot be tolerated by any moral standard. So there is at least a baseline standard. There is a bedrock. There is a point beyond which we as the human race, without respect to cultural differences, will not tolerate this level of evil. That's what the Nuremberg trial gave us. That is a major philosophical development. And anybody who still clings to the concept of moral relativity, for example, well, it's totally, clitoral mutilation is totally cool if you're doing it in one of those cultures that has a religion that supports it. No, I reject you. I reject you on the face of you. And if I must reject you entirely, I will land you on your face. So, when Joe Rogan made this move, 500,000 people joined Gitter.
Man, I wish I had owned not Twitter, but Gitter stock like a week
Yesterday?
ago. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bit late now.
Yeah, well, here we are. Plus 10 good rant.
Now,
Ooh, I need to add that to my plot armor.
Though it might not be too late to buy Gitter stock, because if it's just 500K in one day,
you may be onto something there. We do not give financial advice here.
nor medical.
The only financial advice I'm willing to give on this channel is vote for fair tax.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. We get everybody more money.
Hallelujah.
What do you mean, everybody? I mean, everybody more money. Even rich people? Yes.
Steve's asking, is Gitter public? I actually don't know, and I'm not going to look it up right now because we've only got a few more minutes before we need to wrap it up today. That's worth looking at, though. That might be interesting to learn. I wonder if there's a Gitter coin. Oh, that'd be fun.
There's like a coin for everything now, and it's...
Like the LGB coin?
Yes.
Do you know about the LGB coin?
Yeah, the Let's Go Brandon coin.
Oh, yeah.
Which
And a lot of our viewers are in Georgia. Bunch of rednecks. Love our NASCAR. You know what? Screw NASCAR. No more money for those commies either. You should boycott every sponsor that supports NASCAR. Every advertiser that sponsors NASCAR. Commies. Racist communists.
Well, because they wanted the...
No, Steve, it's not on Brandon Brown's race car, and that's why you should boycott NASCAR, because NASCAR retains last right of refusal on sponsorships and has refused to allow the Let's Go Brandon coin, which was digitally minted to support Brandon Brown, NASCAR has put the kibosh on letting that coin sponsor that driver because they're a bunch of racist commies.
I don't know that I would go that far. Okay, like the thing NASCAR has going for it that nobody else does in the professional sports world. And yeah, I know that's a loose interpretation to say that NASCAR is a professional sport. But putting all that aside, NASCAR has tightly controlled their branding. And now I know they rejected the sponsorship deal, but that doesn't mean they're commies.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because NASCAR has controlled their branding, and NASCAR is still the one sport, again, sport, but whatever. But NASCAR is the one sport that's out there where they expect certain things of the people that participate in the sport. Like, you let a NASCAR driver kneel during the national anthem and see if they're not, like, suspended for however many races is the average thing. Like, these guys are drug tested. They're expected to stay out of trouble with the law. Like, there are certain things that NASCAR does, certain standards that NASCAR has, okay, that is, you kind of wish the other sports would adopt them. Like, the NFL might not have bled a whole bunch of viewers, such as myself, if they'd even had half of NASCAR's, what did you say, chutzpah.
Chutzpah.
I didn't want to spit on you. I didn't want to put that much on the H. So, but no, to say what they did was a weak move, maybe, but it's also consistent with the way they branded themselves for a long period of time. And to say that they're commies, man, NASCAR is the one place, at least so far, where I'd say you're fairly immune to all that. Let NASCAR go woke, and it'll go broke faster than all the other sports.
Well, between the Bubba Smollett reaction that Jeff mentions and this, I think NASCAR's there. They have gone woke. They're so woke. Like, Joe Biden, right, is the epitome of woke. Falling asleep after, in the middle of his speech at a climate summit.
Right.
You're so woke your eyes are closed. And Jeff, that's exactly right. They've been infiltrated. That's what it means for a company, an entity, a public facade, public figure, to go woke. Is they've been infiltrated by the enemy. They've let a bunch of college, Ivy League frickin' grievance majors who have their degrees in, white tears and underwater basket weaving come in and tell them we're not diverse enough. We have not adequately embraced the DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equity. DIE.
I got it. It's just, the left is just not anywhere near as clever as they think they are. I mean...
Well, it may seem that way on some fronts, but let's be real. They are effective. They're an insidious and effective enemy.
They're effective because they know how to manipulate emotion. That doesn't take brains. Like, your children manipulate your emotions. My children manipulate my emotions. That doesn't take a high degree of intelligence. I'd say that that's the basest thing, the simplest interaction that any human being can engage in, because it's one of the first things little children learn how to do. So, the DIE, really? God, I swear, man, I'm losing IQ points. Like, trying to keep up with the stuff that the left does. Like, you ever see a meme from a lefty, and they're proud of it. They think that this is like truth to power, gonna punch you in the face, and you're just like, why? Why would you share this? And only other lefties are like, oh, this is so amazing, I'm gonna reshare it.
It's what's his face from Parks and Rec, and you always see the guy with the mustache that's supposed to be like a parody.
Ron.
Ron.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be like a parody of the American conservative, and they put him up with little sayings about bacon and freedom and guns, and like it's supposed to be critical, and I see it, and I'm like, yes.
Well, it's that.
Yes.
It's that meme that's like, "Are you okay with black people in the inner city owning AR-15s?"
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% of the time.
Super extra okay with that.
Can we help them fill out their permits? In fact, here's a thought. Maybe could we do away with the permit process?
Right. Okay. I don't want to get pulled off the trail on how much hate it should inspire in every single one of you, and how desperately you should want to just burn down the entire government over the idea that they have the unmitigated temerity to steal your rights at gunpoint and then sell them back to you. Because what we're talking about today is the culture war. And I could probably do a whole show out of this, but I'm going to close on it. I want you to think about these things this way. Alternative platforms like Getter, Rumble, etc., where the censorship is not happening. And let me be fair. Getter has terms of service. There are circumstances under which you can be banned from Getter, much like you can from Twitter. Getter is not, at least of yet, weaponizing that against a single political ideology. There have been a few bans from Getter, but they've been things like posting violent pornography, things of that sort. And in theory, that's what the Twitter rules are supposed to prevent, is posting like brutal, violent images and pornography and things like that. And in practice, it's been used for active, not just political censorship, but election tampering.
But not the 2020 election. It was the most awesome
election. The 2020
election
election was the freest, fairest election, most secure, and everything went absolutely right in the election itself. But the banning of the articles about the Biden laptop, that was 100% interference. They committed a crime. You too, YouTube. Your interference there was a federal crime, and a very serious one. I would go so far as to say an act of war. Now, speaking of war, so when you think about platforms like Getter, that is base camp. You go there to engage with allies, to hone your weapons, to practice your arguments, to discuss topics freely, to have free discussions. And one of the discussions that needs to be had there is how to broach and engage the controversial topics to the greatest extent without being thrown off of Twitter and YouTube. Right? We're having this conversation on YouTube at some risk because, like Dave Bowman just pointed out, our ban or our strike doesn't expire until tomorrow. So,
does it expire at midnight tonight?
I don't know.
And
we'll find out.
And we've been operating under that strike for so long. Was that a 3-month or a 6-month strike?
3 months. But we had just come off a 3-month strike like 2 weeks.
That's why
it
feels like a 6-month strike.
Yeah. We basically had about 3 weeks total across last year that we weren't carrying an active strike, and I'm kind of proud of that.
Well, you can always measure the quality of you can measure the quality of a man by the caliber of his friends and the caliber of his enemies.
Indeed.
So yeah.
So Getter is base camp type of stuff. When you're going out there on Twitter, you're engaging the enemy in his native territory. And I mean this on several levels. So the understanding of the popular opinion, a lot of what drives all the wokeness is bullshit media experts telling CEOs and decision makers at large companies that the opinion of the public is X, and that X comes from what is popularly discussed on Twitter. What is popularly discussed on Twitter is a fraction of what is discussed on Twitter. And what is discussed on Twitter is a fraction of the actual Vox Populi. So you have a tiny minority, a tiny vocal minority, who is causing the problems. So when you're active on Twitter, you're engaging the enemy in their home territory. But much like going to engage the enemy in Afghanistan, not everybody is actually the Taliban or Al Qaeda, but everybody is potentially that. But those who aren't actively working, who aren't actively building bombs, transporting weapons, fighting the war, are vulnerable to the war on hearts and minds. They are available to be converted. You can get in there and engage them. And one of the greatest things you can do to help save the country in this 6th generation of warfare frame is you can get in there and fight opinions and have the arguments, steel man the arguments of the opponent, offer up the most generous, strongest argument that they appear to be trying to make and defeat that, so that you can see, so that you get them doing the thing where they stand in the street and scream at the sky like absolute lunatics. Because every time Trigglypuff shakes her fists and screams, one almost a leftist says, wow, maybe we're the baddies, and starts to lean just a little bit further to the center.
Which is, look, as long as you pull them away from being a total retarded leftoid. So, tomorrow the strike expires, and it happens to expire on January 6th. Man, sometimes the memetics of real life, the serendipity of it.
Well, me and magic, man.
I know, right? So, yeah, no, top keck.
Keck.
It's over 9,000 kecks. Yes, indeed. Okay, so tomorrow we're actually going to be taking a look at the article that came out about Ashley Babbitt.
Yes.
And we'll probably at least touch on the fact, apparently now Sean Hannity has been subpoenaed. Like,
good luck.
This January 6th thing is getting spooky. Like, it's getting spooky. But, so tomorrow, Ashley Babbitt and Sean Hannity and the insurrection that wasn't, in which only one person died in the violent insurrection, and that was actually Ashley Babbitt. And for some reason now we all know about Ashley Babbitt's mistakes and the worst things she's ever done in her life. And that's just very interesting. So come back tomorrow when we can actually enjoy our band coming off, or strike, or whatever, and we'll get into that.
Yeah. Y'all be safe. We'll see you tomorrow.